Every year, trillions of dollars vanish, not into space, not into some black hole, but into something far stranger, a hidden system of tiny islands, secret vaults, and legal loopholes so complex that even governments can't untangle them. They're called tax havens, safe shelters for money, safe havens for billionaires, and the ultimate escape hatch for corporations. But here's the question almost nobody dares to ask. What if they didn't exist? What if every single dollar had to stay in the light? What if there was no Panama, no Cayman Islands, no secretive Swiss vaults? What would our world look like without tax havens? Switzerland. The year is 1934. A law is passed, the Banking Secrecy Act, and suddenly, hiding your money isn't just possible, it's protected by law. If a banker reveals your secrets, they could go to prison. And just like that, a new era of financial secrecy begins. But Switzerland wasn't alone. As the British Empire collapsed, the crown held onto something far more powerful than land. It kept its overseas territories, tiny islands like Jersey, the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, places that would become the backbone of a hidden financial empire. By the late 20th century, these weren't just tourist destinations, they were vaults. Vaults where the world's wealthiest could disappear their fortunes, and once the system was in place, the world would never be the same again. So, how does it actually work? First, you create a shell company, a business that exists only on paper. It doesn't sell anything, it doesn't produce anything, but on paper it's worth billions. Then, you move ownership into a trust, a legal structure so complicated that tracing it feels like chasing smoke. And finally, you register it all to a single mailbox address. One building in Luxembourg famously houses over 1,600 corporations. In the Cayman Islands, there are more companies registered than people. This isn't theory. This is how Apple saved tens of billions through Ireland, how Amazon ran its empire through Luxembourg, how Russian oligarchs parked fortunes in Cyprus. The entire global system is built, not on factories, not on workers, but on paperwork designed to hide. The numbers are almost too big to believe. According to the IMF, around $18 trillion sits offshore. That's roughly 10% of the world's entire wealth. 10%. Hidden away, enough to rebuild every broken bridge, to fund every underpaid hospital, to erase the debts of entire nations. And here's the irony. This isn't even illegal. Tax havens are not mistakes. They are not loopholes. They are laws. Laws designed by lawyers, protected by governments, and enforced by the richest nations on earth. So let's step into the world that could have been. A world with no Panama, no Cayman, no Bermuda. Suddenly, governments recover hundreds of billions of dollars every single year. The United States might collect an extra 100 billion annually. The European Union even more. Developing nations, the ones that lose the most, could finally fund their futures. In Africa, debts would crumble, hospitals would expand, schools would open. In America, healthcare might no longer be a question of money. In Europe, infrastructure could reach new heights. Inequality would shrink. The rich would pay their fair share. And for once it might feel like the system wasn't rigged. At least that's the dream. But money is like water. Block one path, and it will always find another. Without tax havens, would the rich simply give up? Of course not. They'd move into private jurisdictions, into cryptocurrency havens, into special passports, where for a few $100,000, you can simply buy your way into a friendlier country. Even if the Cayman Islands disappeared tomorrow, another Cayman would be born. The cat and mouse game would never end. And then there's the darker truth. Tax havens don't just protect billionaires, they protect criminals. Drug cartels launder their billions offshore. Dictators loot their countries and stash the money in Swiss accounts. Terror groups shift funds through shell companies. So a world without tax havens wouldn't just mean more taxes. It could mean fewer wars, fewer corrupt leaders, fewer weapons bought with stolen money. The cost of secrecy isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives. But here's the final twist. Tax havens are not accidents. They're not loopholes. They are the system, created by the very governments who pretend to fight them, protected by the same nations that claim to oppose them. Because in the end, it's not just billionaires who benefit. It's politicians, it's corporations, it's power itself. So ask yourself this. Could we ever truly erase tax havens? Or would the shadows simply move somewhere else? Because as long as there is wealth to be hidden, as long as greed exists, there will always be a haven.